to Joe Small Talk, my favorite podcast in the world. What's a podcast?
Hello and welcome to Joe Small Talk, podcast number 2 for the NBA. Last week we did the NBA Draft podcast with my buddy Johnny the Salesman. Johnny's back for round 2. Johnny, how's it going?
Pretty good. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here, huh? You excited to talk about Dwight Howard and friends? You know,
Yeah.
the crazy thing about Dwight Howard is that he's 27 years old, and you know people are. He's been on this national stage, and every little decision he makes, people just skewer him, ridicule him for every little thing. You know, I feel like people forget that. Look, we're 28 years old, and if people would put us on national television with some of the decisions that we've made, it would be a little different, no? I mean, for me in the morning, my big decision is whether to take a crap in my apartment or at my work on company time. That's my big decision. You know, Dwight Howard is deciding between making $120 million or $88 million and, you know, where to play, where to move his life. So it's kind of funny, no?
Listen, I can elaborate on many of your decisions that were probably ill-conceived at the time, but that's another story for another podcast. You know, the funny thing was, 5 minutes after, all the news came out that Dwight Howard was signing with Houston, this was at 6 o'clock, Eastern time, and I saw a hilarious tweet that I actually retweeted on Facebook, or I actually posted on Facebook. Not one comment, not one like from anybody else.
Wrong crowd. I saw what you posted. It was the wrong crowd.
100% right. I could have done it in some other ways, but you live, you learn. But so fake Sports Center, they have a Twitter feed that just has fake headlines. So their tweet 2 minutes after the news of Howard going to Houston, Dwight Howard reportedly unhappy in Houston. How funny is that?
It was great. Yeah, brilliant line. And obviously they were hoping that he would choose anyone other than the Lakers so they could use that line for Howard. But yeah.
It almost came true. Word came out that even on the plane, he hadn't, when he was going to L.A. to supposedly tell the Lakers he was going to Houston, he still hadn't decided. He was 50-50. So imagine if he would have waffled again and gone back to the Lakers.
I read about that, and J.A. Adonde actually spoke to a source within Dwight Howard's camp. This is all about the sources this week. And he claimed that Howard had already made up his mind before he even met with the Lakers. It was a foregone conclusion. Everyone said how he was emotionless during the meeting. And then they said they put out that fake rumor, I think, that maybe he was waffling about the Lakers just to make them feel good and that they wouldn't, that spread the rumor that he was already going to Houston. It was this whole kind of murky thing, but whatever. The fact is, it was more well done than LeBron's the decision, which people have already forgotten. So I do give credit to Howard. He said he would make a decision by Friday, and he did. But
a few things that were really funny to me. First of all, is that Kobe unfollowed Dwight Howard on Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 14-year-old girls.
Well, what do you think he did though? You think he's at home, he's watching TV with his daughter. You think he gets a text message from let's say Rob Pelinka or Mitch Kupchak and
Jim Buss.
Yeah, he pulls out his laptop, immediately goes to Twitter, he clicks, he unfollows him, finds a picture of him and Gasol, uploads it. You think he had it all planned out? It was too planned. I feel like he planned it out. He knew Howard was leaving.
I can totally imagine Jim Buss sending him a text saying, is this 4 with the number 4 real? Not spelling out the proper letters and everything. It's not too smart. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty lame for him to put up that picture of him and Gasol, embracing each other. Corazon, Laker Corazon or something. I think it's the hashtag. But honestly, I think the Lakers dodged a bullet. I don't know. I mean, you give what's the max? 120 for 5 years?
Well, why do you say that? I mean, I think they dodged the bullet only because they're sticking with D'Antoni, and he's the core of the problem. I read numerous places saying that the primary problem with Howard staying was that D'Antoni was the coach and that they didn't hire Phil Jackson. I think that's the issue. Buss went all in on D'Antoni, and he stuck with him, and that's the reason they didn't get Howard. I mean, it's pretty simple, no?
I mean, partly. I don't know. I could see Howard not wanting to play with Kobe. Howard, he has a mentality that he wants to be the big dog. He wants to be the alpha male. And Kobe's the alpha male on that team. There's no question about that. Kobe is going to be around for another 2-3 years. He'll come back from the Achilles thing sooner or later. He's not going to relinquish control of that team. Howard just never looked comfortable. I mean, you could say that he was injured. He still averaged 17 and 12. He led the NBA in rebounding. Still a big presence. But I don't know. You give that kind of money to somebody who's so petulant, so...
You have to, though. Every executive seemed to agree that, like, he's one of those guys. You have no choice. Like, obviously he's petulant, but, it would be like bringing in Josh Smith, for $5 million a year. Every team would do that, even though he's a flawed player and, maybe some character issues. That's just how it is.
Right. You're right, but I think the Lakers might be even better served to go after, their old friend Andris Biedrins. Give him a 1-year deal. 1 year, $7 million, with some kind of money coming back if he doesn't play, a certain amount of games.
Yeah, but wouldn't you rather the Lakers tank and then hand the reins of the team? They keep talking about who's the replacement for Kobe. If they get Wiggins, Parker, or Randall, that could be the next guy. I mean, shouldn't they just tank at this point?
How
far can they go in the playoffs?
That's interesting. I mean, let's say realistically, let's say Kobe makes it back by the All-Star. The Achilles is supposedly a very hard injury to come back from. How are they even going to make the playoffs? I mean...
Well, you know what? I think with D'Antoni, Nash, and Gasol playing his natural position of center, I read that they've contacted Lamar Odom. I'm not saying this is a championship team, but I know it's funny, but I think D'Antoni will be more able to implement his system, and they could be a 45-win team, with Kobe playing the latter part of the season. I'm not saying that that's good, but that's the whole point. You don't want to be in the no man's land that everyone keeps talking about, which is anywhere between 35 to 48 wins, let's say. That's where they are right now.
Definitely true. I don't know. I keep thinking about D'Antoni's precipitous fall.
Yeah.
Remember when the Knicks signed him? He had such a great pedigree, coming from the Suns. He helped them do so much. The Bulls were thinking about signing him. The Knicks, grabbed him, and it just did terribly. I hated watching D'Antoni as the Knicks coach. I'd been so excited as a Knicks fan, and just seeing his commitment to that 7 seconds or less offense, no matter who his personnel was. Chris Johan is not Steve Nash. I learned that very quickly.
But he made it work, though. Don't forget, the Knicks were a terrible team the year before. Remember they were like 28 and 25 that year with Amari until they brought Carmelo in. They were really, I thought they were rolling for a bit. D'Antoni's had his moments, even with the Knicks.
He doesn't practice defense. He doesn't try. I watched a lot of Knicks games. I watched many Knicks games during the D'Antoni era. Their defensive principles are pathetic. They just switch every pick. It's like a high school team, or even worse, it's like a pickup game.
You don't trust Dan D'Antoni's defensive schemes?
Everybody knows that Dan D'Antoni's just along for the ride.
No, he's great because that guy, he's always guaranteed a job as long as Mike has a job. It's crazy, He would never be hired as a coach by anybody, but if Mike gets hired, Dan is hired. It's a great deal.
He kisses his brother's ass.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think, I don't know, D'Antoni, he just did a terrible job with the Lakers. He can't handle those kind of egos. He's a player's coach without a lot of sway in the locker room. I don't know. You tell me what you think. I think Phil Jackson would have helped mitigate that mess somewhat. Last year, just telling Kobe and Dwight, listen, we've been through this with Shaq. Dwight could be the same dominant type of force as Shaq, just, give into your egos a little bit. And I don't know, you think Phil would change anything?
Absolutely. I mean, Phil said he laughed when Buzz told him that he was hiring D'Antoni. And if he did laugh, he was right to laugh because it was a horrible fit, So
I don't know.
The question is...
The whole thing is a mess.
The question is, people are saying, did Howard make the right decision? And I don't think they did because I think Golden State would have been such a better fit. And the fact that they actually cleared the cap space by that crazy trade to Utah, they got rid of Biedrins and Jefferson, two horrendous players with making double digits. And then they signed Igoudala. I still think they had to do a sign and trade with LA, but at that point it would have been worth it. I don't know why Howard didn't consider Golden State a little more. I think they have a better future than Houston. You know, Houston is very thin right now. People don't realize it's just right now. It's just Harden, Howard, Lin, and Asik. And by the way, Asik said, did you pick up on this? Asik said he doesn't want to.
The funniest news came out. Asik doesn't want to play with Dwight Howard. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I was surprised because he's such a kind of a mild-mannered, non-talkative guy, and maybe he heard bad things about Howard, but I don't know. I think they could play alongside each other. I think that'd be great. Also, Howard could play power forward. You know, they might not be able to be on the floor together at the end of the game because of Howard's free throw shooting, but imagine the opponent's field goal percentage, especially in the paint with those two guys. I don't think any team could penetrate it. You know, I think that would be a nice kind of interesting roster to have those two, and then put Parsons at the 3, Harden at the 2, and Beverly at the 1, assuming Lin is traded. But
I don't know. I thought that I think Houston's the best option for him. Just to go to Houston, be the big dog. Harden isn't so egotistical as to not let give in a little bit so that Howard can be the man.
Yeah, but the joke is Harden is still the big dog. He's the MVP of the team. He's more valuable. Everyone knows that.
He is more valuable, but personality-wise, he's willing to let Dwight kind of be the face of the franchise and all that. But I mean, Houston has a nice team around him. Chandler Parsons is really underrated. Great shooter. Sort of like Brian Anderson when Howard was back in Orlando, just kind of spreading the floor.
Yeah.
Harden's a good three-point shooter. Great going to the basket. Really a great player. What do you average? 26, 27?
25, I think. 25 and a half.
This
Yeah.
past year. Lin, I agree. I don't think he's going to stay. Somebody will take that contract.
Who's going to take him? I don't see. Why would any team take that contract? I mean, at least not right now, because maybe next year when it's expiring. But even to trade an expiring contract, you need to give a draft pick. I mean, that's what Golden State did. You can't just dump an expiring contract. Teams realize that they can get valuable picks nowadays for these shitty contracts. And also, Asik, I think, actually is worth his money. Lin is not, right? We all agree that Lin is not worth, what is it, like 5 plus 20 million over the next 2 years? I don't think he's worth that.
The poison pill.
Right, but Asik was a top, I think, 3 or 4 defensive center in the NBA. Roy Hibbert proved how valuable that was in the playoffs. I think there's a place for Asik on a team, at 10, 11 million a year. So they shouldn't be so quick to trade that guy, even if he's unhappy. Let them deal with that. That's what I think.
It would have been interesting seeing Howard in Golden State.
I agree.
First of all, Howard coming into the league, Howard is a pretty religious guy. He kept saying initially that he wanted, when he left the game, for the NBA's logo to, not just be Jerry West, but kind of like have a cross or something. And
we all know how ludicrous that is, though, because of his off-the-court proclivities. I read there was a guy who called in. I forgot what show on ESPN, but there was actually like a sports writer, like for a major newspaper, who just ripped into Howard, said he has 5 kids with 5 different baby mamas, and just his bad character, and that does mean something. If you have 5 kind of baby mamas, doesn't that show a dearth of character on some level? I think it's fair.
When I had read something about that, you might have actually sent me a little something about that
a link
in the morning when I woke up. And I may or may not have spent 45 minutes at work checking out all the different sources, sending over some different things to some friends of mine at work about how many potential children Dwight Howard has, and some squabbles between his different baby mamas.
Yeah, and the thing about Golden State is that they're known for being this very kind of Christian organization, right? Especially the locker room, but Mark Jackson, we all know that he had a kind of a famous incident with with a stripper. I don't think he had a child, but it's kind of like, I respect Mark Jackson. I think he's a great coach, and as an NBA player, I could see why you'd want to play for him. But everybody's got their character flaws, it seems like. We believe Warriors, though. He was a big part of that.
He was a good player. I mean, that guy gave you, double-digit rebounds. Maybe he was an all-star. Biedrins gave you double-digit rebounds and just tough play around the rim. He was up-and-coming player. Everyone forgets that he was the centerpiece of a trade for Amari. I think, 2-3 years ago? I think the year before Amari was a free agent. he just never panned out. Something happened to him with his free throw shooting. He lost his mind. Everyone also forgets that Deadspin also found pictures of him engaging in sexual acts with some woman with his Serbian friends. I think it was in a van or so.
Well, why do you have to say Serbian? What does it matter what nationality they were? It can't be American.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. But I'm guessing Andris mostly hangs out with the Serbian crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand how a guy could have such a precipitous drop in production. It's one thing if your shooting goes down, goes sour, but how hard is it to get rebounds and play defense? That's just about effort. Like if you miss shots, you miss shots. And if in baseball you miss, you lose your hand-eye coordination, whatever. But in basketball, you can always play defense. You can always lock down an offensive player. I don't know. I never understood what happened to Biedrins, but.
He also, I mean, a lot of guys, and it's human psychology. I mean, you're making tens of millions of dollars a year, your motivation isn't really there anymore, You're sending money back to your buddies in Serbia, wherever he's from.
It's true. This guy got $60 million guaranteed. It's I could understand why you don't feel like waking up in the morning, going out.
Yeah, to shoot foul shots with Don Nelson in your ear.
Don Nelson, yeah. Do you like the job that Bob Myers is doing now for the Warriors? He's the GM now. I mean, I guess under the new ownership, he has a little bit more of a he's no. You like Vivek Ranadiv, huh? Ranadiv. Yeah.
Ranadiv.
Yeah, Vivek. Yeah, but
I mean.
Joe Lacob, right?
I don't know.
Lacob.
Oh yeah, Lacob. Ranadiv just bought the Kings.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think, Igoudala, I think, is a move you have to make, especially if you're not going to get Howard.
I want to just jump in, by the way, quickly about the Igoudala thing. I thought it was fascinating how the Kings made him the offer, remember? 4 years, 52, maybe even 56. A lot of money. Overpaying him even. And everyone knows that he's not going to the Kings, right? They were the worst organization in the NBA up until your boy Vivek bought them. But even so, they're not contenders. They're not near being contenders. But that's a serious offer. Igoudala, what I think happens, or what we know happened, Igoudala takes the offer to the Nuggets management, to Kroenke, right? Since Masaji Uri, however you say his name, is gone.
Masai Ujiri.
Okay, Ujiri's gone. He's in Toronto. He'll be there forever. He takes it to the whatever. I don't even know who the GM of Denver is now. And
Tim Connolly.
Who is it?
Tim Connolly.
Okay, he takes it to these guys, and they probably laugh at him. They probably say, okay, go sign with Sacramento, see if we care, because they all know that he's not going to Sacramento. And I think that pissed off Igoudala, and I remember being surprised when the Warriors agreed to the 4 years, $48 million, because I read that because I know that the Nuggets would offer him that. He's worth 4 years, 48, and I read that the Nuggets indeed offered him 4 years, I think even 52, and he turned that down to go to the Warriors, and I think he was probably pissed off that the Nuggets kind of laughed at his Kings offer, which they all knew he wouldn't sign, and I think he turned down a couple million to go to probably a better team. The Warriors are now the sexy team of the NBA, even without Howard, and I just thought it was interesting, this whole Igoudala flap.
Well, where will he play? Especially now that Landry's gone, they'll have Bogut at the 5. Barnes will play the 4, right? Barnes is pretty effective at power forward last year, I think.
So let him play the 3. Let Igoudala play the 3.
Yeah, Igoudala play the 3. Even in a pinch, I think he might be able to play the 4 in like a super small lineup.
Yeah.
You have Curry, and now that Jarrett Jack is a big loss for them. He gave that team a lot of swag. He's like one of those back alley guys also you don't want to mess with.
I agree. Curry's a very fragile player, and with Mark Jackson running him into the ground, playing 55-minute playoff games, I think they're going to need a backup point guard more than they realized. So I agree with you about Jack.
The Warriors are always, one turned ankle away from this whole thing going down.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
It can happen in the summer. It can happen during the middle of the game. It's pretty incredible how good Steph Curry is. I was at the game this year in the Garden when he scored, 54 or something insane. He just couldn't miss. I was actually on a date in the middle of that game, and the young lady that I was with, I don't think she understood what was going on. She kept talking, and I kind of wanted to pay attention. You wouldn't take a date to a Knick game, right? A little cost prohibitive.
Of course, but I'm still upset. I remember, I think 6 years ago, there was a triple overtime New York Knicks game, regular season, and I was supposed to go to the movies with a girl. We were just watching the game, and I kept saying, when it ends, and I left in the middle of the third overtime because she was insistent, and it may have paid off later, but at the time I remember not enjoying that. Anyways. He was the other kind of 6'9" forward alongside Igoudala, who was expected to get big money, and he got it from the Pistons. And I wanted to talk about this with you. The Pistons are one of those teams which just need a reset. They're going to be a 44-win team next year. They brought in Josh Smith, and it seems like he's going to have to play small forward, and he's going to be alongside Drummond and Greg Monroe. I don't love that. I think. As we saw, Smith is so effective at the 4 right now, especially with LeBron types playing power forward. I don't see how and they don't even have a good backcourt. I don't like where the Pistons are going, and I don't know. I think they're no man's land. I think they're one of those teams, and Dumars just doesn't learn his lesson. I mean, you're a Villanueva guy. You didn't like that right?
Two things about the Pistons organization. I once dated a girl who. Her grandfather was a minority owner of the Pistons in the 90s, and I think he actually sold right after the Pistons won the title in 2004.
So he was responsible partly for the Darko Milicic draft. Okay, continue.
So, I know you always say, Joe Smalltalk, that if I would have stuck around with her, I would have been able to make some serious personnel decisions.
No, you would have been.
I would have been in the draft room. I would have been in the green room.
Let me say, no, you would have been able to hobnob with Joe Dumars once a year at a Detroit Pistons organizational event where there are hundreds of people. That's what I'll give you.
I would have gone over to him and been like, "Hey, Joe, I'm dating so and so's granddaughter." He'll be like, "Who? Who's that?"
Security.
Like, so, Charlie Villanueva, 5 years. What was that? $50 million? You gave him $10 million a year.
Yeah, and I think he got it because of that 50-point game. I think that was before he signed the deal, right? That must have been. Why else would you give that guy $50 million?
Nothing comes to my mind with Villanueva other than $50 million, which is insane. He wasn't worth 3/4 of that. And when Kevin Garnett called him a cancer patient.
Yeah, and the best part about the cancer patient line wasn't the fact that he called him a cancer patient. It was his bullshit excuse afterwards that I didn't call him a cancer patient. I said that he was a cancer in his locker room. Like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, Garnett said that, yeah.
You think Garnett would ever refer to somebody as a cancer in a locker room? I just thought that was absurd.
Yeah. Getting back to Josh Smith, though, I don't know. I think he's going to be I don't know anything about him other than his fantastic nickname of Jason Move, which is a little bit underrated. We're in a bad era of nicknames right now. Everybody's like initials for Stoudemire has Stat, which standing tall and talented. It makes me cringe every time I hear it. It's like a very childish.
I thought he got Stat because he just put up loaded stats on Phoenix.
He made an acronym for himself: Standing Tall and Talented.
It's better than WOW, Way of Wade.
But so I don't know. I could just see Josh Smith, taking Andre Drummond and Greg Monroe to a different strip club every night in Detroit. Just cornering the market on strip clubs, buying a strip club with them. I think it's terrible he's not a great character guy.
He's not, and you know what? For a young team, I don't see how bringing Smith to be the veteran presence is going to work. I read that they're going to want to bring in Billups, but I don't see Billups. People still want to play this guy minutes, and I don't understand it. People keep thinking about Mr. Big Shot, and I think
10 years ago. It was over 10 years ago.
I know. If they want to bring him to coach, fine. But speaking of coaching, by the way, let's talk about that for a second. So Tom Gores, the owner of the Pistons, as you know, Johnny.
What do you know about Tom Gores?
I know plenty about Tom Gores. I know that he bought the team from your grandfather. He bought a little bit too hot. But anyways, so he brought in Phil Jackson to conduct the coaching, the coaching search, right? Which is interesting. Okay, he'll do some pro bono work. I thought maybe it was kind of a sneaky way of Gores getting Jackson into kind of his inner circle, maybe consider coaching himself, which wouldn't have been the worst idea. Anyways, Phil Jackson's genius decision, as he wasn't the GM, but Dumars is the GM. But Phil Jackson's big decision is to bring in Maurice Cheeks. And when I read that, I kind of rolled my eyes. Like, Maurice Cheeks, it's kind of like a coaching carousel at this point. He was there are these NBA coaches who just go from team to team. They coach, they got fired. They coach, they got fired. It's these guys over and over. And when I heard Maurice Cheeks, the first thing I thought of, and maybe you probably did too, is his career highlight so far has been helping that girl with the when she didn't sing the national anthem.
Yeah.
Exactly, and like when that's your career arc, you shouldn't be coaching, right? I mean, and I'll tell you why, and you'll probably agree with this. He, if I'm not mistaken, was under Scotty Brooks, right, for a few years in Oklahoma. And there's lately, and I think this is overdone at this point, there's this kind of mystique that has been attributed to the Thunder organization, the Spurs. Anybody who's coached under Popovich or assisted R.C. Buford, right? And the same goes for Presti, and now it's seeped into Scotty Brooks, which I don't think is a good idea, by the way. Brooks is not a great coach. Those kind of two organizations and those four guys have given this mystique that it's kind of, rubbing off throughout the NBA. Jacques Vaughn got hired as a coach. Wasn't he coaching under Popovich?
Yeah. He played for the Spurs, too.
Right, and it just, not that he's not qualified, but it's gotten to the point where it's a little bit overkill. And I want to say something else quickly. I'll let you jump in. Presti, right, he was really hailed as recently as a year ago as an NBA genius, right? He's making all the right decisions. He assembled this great roster, high draft picks. He's created a new way, right? You got to get bad to get better. But now with this trade of James Harden for essentially Jeremy Lamb, right, and this guy Steven Adams, people are kind of looking at Presti like, what the hell? Like, you're the genius who we're all kind of modeling our franchises after. And I feel like there's going to be this pullback of respect for guys who served under Presti. All these Presti minions running around the NBA. I feel like this Harden trade is going to have a reciprocal effect on teams kind of worshiping Presti's metric-driven method, don't you think? With that Harden trade is looking worse and worse by the day.
In retrospect, clearly what Thunder should have done is traded Ibaka. Ibaka's more expendable than Harden. Ibaka's a good player, emerging player. He hits corner threes too, which, is surprising. But, they could have... You give Harden the max deal, not Ibaka.
I guess, but I also wonder, how can they let Kevin Martin walk so quickly? He didn't get that much money from the Wolves. I think he got 4 years, maybe $28-30 million. I was a little surprised that, aside from the fact that he was the centerpiece of the Harden trade, they let him walk. It didn't seem like they even cared, and he was a pretty good second option when Westbrook went down. Do you find that surprising?
I feel like they probably could groom one of their young guys like Lamb, who's done nothing so far, maybe even Perry Jones, to pitch in with 10, 12 points a game. I think actually Martin averaged 14, 15 a game this past year, which is totally respectable. But supposedly Martin wanted to go back to Sacramento to be reunited with your boy Rick Adelman and his system.
Yeah, he likes the corner offense system of Rick Adelman.
You don't believe in systems. Systems isn't not something where you just think throw the ball out on the court and whatever happens happens.
I'll tell you who else doesn't believe in systems. O.J. Mayo signing with the Bucks. What did you think about that Mayo signing?
Listen, O.J. Mayo can put points on the board. On a bad team, he can score 20 a game easily. And with Monte Ellis leaving, I don't know. I think for him it's a good fit. He doesn't care. He's going to go wherever the money is. Not a great character guy. Everyone forgets now that he got in that fight with Tony Allen over a card game. I think, what's the card game they play? Who something?
There's some NBA card game that these guys play that most people don't play, and apparently the stakes can get high very, very quickly. And it's funny how, even though Tony Allen was the one who punched him, Mayo came out the bad guy because everyone assumes that he tried to steal money from Tony Allen. The grit and grind, right? Is that it? Grit and grind?
What, the game?
No, I'm saying Tony Allen's nickname, Grit and Grind.
Yeah, Grit and Grind, the Grizzlies thing.
Yeah.
I think if you're the Bucks, why not take a shot with a guy like that? He's clearly someone that'll just go wherever the money is the highest. But
I have to disagree with you, by the way. I think the Bucks they're in no man's land. They bring in Mayo. Let's say they win 42 wins. They win 42 games now. What are they going to accomplish? Even if they re-sign Jennings, they're not going to beat any team in the East right now in a playoff series. They got destroyed by the Heat last year. Right? Let's say they move into the 7th seed. Big deal. They'll get destroyed by the Bulls or the Nets or the Pacers. I think the Bucks are a classic team that just has to start over. And John Hammond has done an atrocious job so far. You like that I know his name, huh?
You're right. the thing is, a team like the Bucks is never going to get a top flight free agent like a LeBron type, a Carmelo type, a Dwight Howard type. So it's imperative for them even more so to tank for Andrew Wiggins or Julius Randle or Harrison or Jabari Parker. They need one of those guys. I mean, the Bucks haven't been good since the late '80s. With
no, hold on. Ray, they were a few Ray Allen whistles from beating the Sixers. No.
Yeah, that was a very watered down NBA. What was that 97 or so? I don't know. Didn't you see Mayo when you took that famous visit out to
so
LA?
For anyone who didn't listen to our last podcast on the NBA draft, I went to the UCLA gym. It's actually open to anybody. It's kind of a little unknown secret. During the summer, a lot of these NBA players play there. Also, a lot of Division I players, a lot of fringe NBA prospects, a couple of European guys. And I went there and I saw O.J. Mayo playing, and he was facing off against Marcus Williams of the University of Connecticut fame. And Mayo was very pedestrian. He was kind of he could shoot, but every time he went to the paint, he wasn't an effective player. And Marcus Williams was winning the showdown. And it's funny with Marcus Williams. As I mentioned in the previous podcast, I saw him texting with somebody whose name was Kitchen, and the reason I know this is because he was sitting on the sideline, and the contact of the text message said Kitchen, and he was texting. And unfortunately, I didn't get a close look. I couldn't read what was being said between Marcus Williams and Kitchen. But
why do you think the person's nickname was Kitchen?
Well, we already talked about that on the last podcast. But I still don't understand to this day how with Williams and the laptops, it's so crazy. This guy is
you have to clarify that the reason that we thought the name Kitchen was hysterical is because we assumed that he was performing sexual acts on a girl in the kitchen. So we immediately named, we said that moniker is for, a female.
Don't ask me. Ask Marcus why her name is Kitchen. I'm not making any assumptions.
Pleading the fifth.
Yeah. What do you think Coach Calhoun's reaction was when he found out when he was informed that Marcus Williams was involved in laptop theft? You think he said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" or do you think he just rolled his eyes? It's one of the two.
I think it was a little of both. I don't know. This guy, he knew he was going to be the first round pick in the league, and he still thought it was going to be a good idea to steal laptops. I mean, the idea that he was stealing laptops is funnier than anything.
Yeah, you're a Division I star. You have everything. Obviously, you're not getting paid, but you have everything. You have food, drink, girls, and everything. What's a laptop going to do? But anyways, you know what? When he was playing, he was holding his own against O.J. Mayo, who was outplaying him, and I'm surprised he's not in the NBA. It could be the character thing, but I thought he was good. I thought he came around. GMs liked him.
You would sign him and Gotcha.
Oh yeah.
The street right now.
Marcus Williams would be my starting point guard right now because he wouldn't take shit from anybody. That's why.
Bootsy Thornton from St. John's.
Bootsy Thornton scored. Did he score 40 against Duke one year when he was on St. John's?
Or was that Marcus Hatton?
I think Bootsy Thornton had a 40-point game. And Lavor Postell had a 10-day contract with the Knicks, and he scored 20 points in one game. And you know what? I never understood why, based off of that, he didn't have an NBA career. I mean, he proved that he could play in the NBA. There's so many of these guys who are just sitting out there who can get minimum contracts, could play. I don't get it. Anyways.
Not to backtrack too much, but thinking about Phil Jackson, I was talking with a friend of mine the other day about Jeannie Buss. Jeannie Buss must be in her 50s. She looks fantastic. She's a former Playboy Playmate. I was thinking about this. I would 100% watch a reality show centered around Phil Jackson, Jeannie Buss, Jim Buss, and their whole lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. I pay pay-per-view for that.
it would be fantastic television. I mean, Jackson is this mysterious character. He tweets now. He has actually pretty interesting tweets. Pay attention to him. A little bit bizarre. He's got the whole Zen thing going on. He's been dating Jeannie Buss for 10 years. Not married.
It's true.
Dating her.
Everyone knows it. They're not married. It's so funny. It's like this obvious kind of funny thing around the NBA circles that they're not married. And I actually heard Stephen A. on the radio once was saying the reason that Jim Buss hates Phil Jackson is because he's never proposed to Jeannie, which who knows?
Now he proposed. I think it's his fiancée now.
Okay, let's see if they get married.
But great with that reality show. Them talking, about players behind their backs. Jim Buss trying to join them for dinner, but them not answering his phone calls.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, anyways, I agree with you about the Jackson thing. But speaking of NBA coaches, former coaches, I forgot to mention Mike Dunleavy Sr. was at the UCLA gym when I was there watching the game. And it's kind of funny. Like, what is this guy doing there? The funny part is he gets respect there because he's got $35 million, and in the summer in a UCLA gym in a hot summer with fringe NBA players and Division I guys, a guy like Mike Dunleavy is respected, and he's walking around there with his leather shoes, and it was just interesting. It was an interesting dynamic to watch this kind of pickup game between Mayo and Marcus Williams, and also Byron Russell was there playing, and it was a very funny dynamic. I didn't have the gall to shout at Dunleavy. Why'd you put Ewing? What was it, Daniel Ewing you put in the game, which cost him?
He called in overtime, or maybe at the end of regulation. Hadn't played a minute. Put him in the corner and took a shot and missed badly.
Yeah, I didn't have the gall to shout at him, but
I feel like Dunleavy didn't have anything better to do. He was texting his friends, seeing if there are any lunch plans in Beverly Hills.
He's a lunch guy.
Nobody answered him. He's like, let's go down to UCLA. Look like I'm scouting.
Yeah, why not? How about Dunleavy Jr. signing with the Bulls? I thought that was the signing of the summer so far. I think
Easy now, big fella. Well, let's not get too excited about Mike Dunleavy Jr., the number one target, supposedly, of the Bulls in free agency.
Look, I'm not wetting my pants over this. I'm just saying 2 years, $6 million for a sharpshooting guy to play along Derrick Rose is a great fit. Thibodeau's system. By the way, you mentioned briefly, you reminded me of Troy Murphy because you said how he was the number one target for the Bulls. You ever notice how every so often one of these kind of former has-beens, well, not a former has-been, a has-been or a former good player, is cut by a team, in the waivers. Troy Murphy a few years ago, I think it was the Warriors who cut him, and all of a sudden there was this plethora of playoff contention teams were all texting him. Kevin Garnett was texting him to come to Boston. Kobe was texting him to come to LA, and everybody's texting. By the way, I love the thing about texting. Every day, everybody's texting everybody now in the NBA. Parsons apparently texted Dwight Howard 1,000 times this past week. But anyways, Troy Murphy became this kind of prized free agent, and you know what? He signed with the Celtics. Okay, he looked kind of funny in the green uniform. He joins Boston, and he has absolutely no impact on their playoff run. And that's it. Murphy's gone, and it's a little bit. They get too excited about these guys, Troy Murphy. Kevin Garnett's texting Troy Murphy. What do you think Kevin Garnett writes in his text messages to Troy Murphy? Give me the exact verbatim.
We really need you. Part of the Boston Celtic lower, going for that 17th title or whatever it was.
You think Garnett makes spelling mistakes when he texts?
Oh yeah. Tons of spelling mistakes, just like Jim Buss.
Do you think that? What is that? Your phone vibrating?
It's some New York City traffic outside my Upper West Side apartment.
New York City, huh? Are you neighbors with Zach Lowe?
Zach Lowe, I think, lives in Brooklyn.
But you think Kevin Garnett uses autocorrect on his text messages?
I don't think he knows about autocorrect. I think he's one of those guys that has an iPhone but doesn't know how to download apps. His manager downloads apps from every so often.
I think he has a snake phone, by the way. I think he has one of those old Nokia phones, which only has the snake game on it and are indestructible. I heard that he scored a 400 in his SATs. You ever hear that?
Yeah, I did.
That's a famous story.
Well, then he took the ACT, I think, because he couldn't qualify with the SATs, and then he was like, "Screw it, I'm just not gonna, go to college."
Yeah, number 5 pick. Why not?
Couldn't qualify. Not as bad as your boy Derrick Rose cheating on his SATs.
Rose cheated his SATs? I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was a huge scandal.
Oh, right. That's so crazy because Rose is such a good character guy, and
his brother probably set it up.
Reggie?
Reggie's bad news. Everybody knows that.
Reggie's famous now. Yeah, nobody else talks about Derrick Rose and the knife incident, and that was the most bizarre, non-talked about incident I think in recent years. Remember that? It was I think his rookie year or 2 years ago. Derrick Rose cut himself he was slicing an apple, and he cut his thumb and he couldn't play. He was out for a while. Nobody talked about the overt and obvious shadiness of that kind of episode. I mean, you're in the south side of Chicago and you get cut with a knife. You're not slicing apples, and I just thought it was just nobody talked about it. Why don't the media types inquire more about what happened there?
I was reading an article about how while Derrick Rose was convalescing, instead of playing.
Convalescing, huh?
That's a big word, huh? Big word.
I don't even know if that's the right usage, but yeah, continue.
While he was recuperating, he apparently said that his girlfriend is about to give birth to his first child. He was talking about how dedicated of a father he's going to be. I would love to find out more about these guys' lives, about their girlfriends, past girlfriends. That stuff is fascinating to me. Do you agree?
Yeah, Larry Johnson has, I think, 6 kids by 5 different women, or 7 kids.
No, I thought that was Shawn Kemp.
No, Shawn Kemp has like 8 kids, apparently.
Yeah.
That's why. But that's why, if you ever notice, Larry Johnson always looks like he's working hard. He's always wearing a suit. He's working for Dolan, and he's earning every penny, and he's doling it out to all his baby mamas. He always looks haggard, Larry Johnson. Every time you see him in a suit at all these press conferences, he just looks like.
You'd be haggard too if you had to deal with 8, 6, 5 baby mamas in different cities across the country.
Yeah. Anyways, we got to wrap up. 2 quick things we didn't talk about. Tyreek Evans going to the Pelicans. Probably the most random signing of the summer. He got. I think the consensus is that he got overpaid. He became overrated. He's one of the guys that became so overrated that he started to become underrated. People looked at this guy as a 25-5 guy. If he's your second or third option, I think you could be in decent shape. And I don't know. I mean, I read even the Spurs had interest in him, and I think the Pelicans have a decent future. I didn't mind it. I didn't mind that signing.
He's a classic knucklehead. I mean, on a team like the Pelicans, they have Eric Gordon. They have, what's his name? The number 1 pick last
Davis,
year.
Yeah, Anthony Davis.
I don't know. He's another knucklehead that looks for his own shots. Not really, part of a team system or philosophy or culture. I think it would have been better to go to a team like, for instance, I guess the Spurs would have been good because they would have clamped down on him.
Well, he chased the money. That's the obvious. I mean, he was in OJ Mayo situation. He got an offer and he didn't even give a shit.
Well, he can contribute on an NBA team somewhere. I don't think the Pelicans are a great fit for him, and they can always turn that contract around. He got overpaid, but a year, 2 years down the road, when a team's looking for some scoring punch off the bench, I think that's a great asset to have.
I agree. You know who else got overpaid, and nobody really made a big deal about this. Manu Ginobili got 2 years, $14 million. I thought that was a ridiculous contract. I mean, we all saw the way he played in the finals. He had 1 good game out of 7. So he basically went 1 for 7 in terms of efficient NBA games.
Listen, as a member of the Bald Brotherhood, I'm totally endorsing his $14 million contract.
I don't know.
He's helping bald people worldwide.
I still keep remembering that final play where he just threw the ball into LeBron James' hand. That awful, awful basketball play in Game 7 with like 15 seconds left, and that guy gets a 2-year deal. I don't know.
That's a classic case of paying for previous performance.
Yeah, but you know what? Shouldn't Ginobili say, "Look, I know I screwed up terribly. I'm not worth this money. Give me a 1-year deal for $5 million, and I'm out of here."
That's what you would do? You take that kind of pay cut?
Yes, I would. You know what? Dirk Nowitzki claims he's going to take a big pay cut next year. Why can't Manu Ginobili? They're both Spanish or European, German, whatever.
Dirk's assistant, Dirk's famous coach, Holger Geschwindner.
Holger
whispers in his ear to take a pay cut. He does whatever Holger says.
Holger's an underrated kind of NBA coaching person, right?
I would also watch a reality show centered around Holger Geschwindner, Dirk Nowitzki, and Dirk Nowitzki's ex-fiancée who tried to milk him out of money. Remember that? Everyone forgot about that, too.
Absolutely. 38-year-old, yeah, I remember that. Would you watch a reality show of just her how do you say his name? Holger Geschwindner?
Holger Geschwindner.
Would you watch a reality show of Holger Geschwindner's life in Germany? Just every day, wakes up, showers, eats breakfast, goes to the gym, works out with players. Nowitzki shows up once in a while. Would you watch an entire season of that?
I wouldn't watch a season. If I knew Nowitzki was going to be...
Nowitzki would make appearances, yeah.
If I knew Nowitzki and his ex-fiancée were going to be going to have lunch with Holger Geschwindner in Würzburg, Germany, I'd tune in.
And Shawn Marion makes an appearance as well. Shawn Marion goes to one of the camps to learn how to shoot.
Shawn Marion's not going to Würzburg, Germany anytime soon.
By the way, what do you think about the fact that Marion has the notoriously the worst shooting form in the NBA, and he's probably spoken to Geschwindner. They've probably spoken. It's funny, no?
I don't know. I mean, I think Marion was the type of guy that whatever he did was successful for him, so you didn't bother him.
It's true. Anyways, I think we're about done here. Next week, We want to do a podcast on tanking, which teams are tanking, but which teams need to tank, etc., etc. Johnny, the sales guy, good job tonight.
Over and out.
Over and out. And keep your towel on.